David, for the invitation. Hello, everyone. My name is Andrew Ellis, and I'm with the Los Angeles chapter of the Climate Reality Project. I've been a climate leader with Climate Reality Project for 10 years. I was trained in 2013. I'm not really quite sure why I went off to Chicago to meet the former vice president, but I stuck with it. It's a wonderful organization. It's very flexible, lets me do what I like to do. I'm currently the legislative committee chair of the Los Angeles chapter, and I was talking to David earlier about I helped put the LA chapter together with three other individuals in 20, I guess it was 5 years ago now, but it's functioning, up and running. San Fernando split off, and they're even as big as we are. So we work in teams on the legislative. We've tracked legislation and do legislative advocacy. So I'll get the presentation started. We'll do a brief presentation. The topic this afternoon is how are we going to access some of these funds for the Inflation Reduction Act and the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. And to do that, what I want to do is share a slideshow with everybody. This is sort of a hybrid show from the vice president's team, as well as some custom slides that I've put together. So any questions that come up, don't hold them. Feel free to just unmute yourself and blurt them out. We've got plenty of time. The show won't be very long, 10 minutes or less. And we'll go through this, what I like to call how to access the funding in the Inflation Reduction Act. So again, welcome everybody, and thank you so much, David, for these invitations. It's wonderful to meet everybody and to see everybody today. What I want to do briefly is just talk about the Climate Reality Project. It was started by former Vice President Al Gore in 2006 in Tennessee in his barn with 50 individuals. He's grown the organization now to 50,000 individuals all over the planet, 50,000 climate leaders. We're doing trainings. We just did an in-person training in Seoul, South Korea. We'll do in 2024 a whole lot of North American trainings. We just got word on that Sunday night. Two virtual and one in-person North American trainings in 2024. So looking forward. They're always free, and I encourage everybody to think about joining in. And again, I said it's a flexible organization and allows you to take climate action in ways that you would not normally think that you had the capability. So to just briefly summarize, our mission is to catalyze a global solution to the climate crisis by making urgent action a necessity across every level of society. The most important part of that phrase is across every level of society. If we're to make a just and equitable transition to a renewable future, we need to lead. We can't leave anybody behind. Everybody has to go along this journey with us. So that's one of the most important things. And environmental justice issues are top of the mind in people in Southern California. We are ground zero for toxic waste and oil exploration. And we have the largest urban oil exploration field in the world. A little bit about me. I'm a retired environmental scientist. I graduated from college. Our only option back then was environmental science. So I'm a chemist, and I dug up hazardous waste sites with big teams of scientists and backhoes with drillers, and developed remediation plans for the Superfund sites all up and down California. And I went back to college after I retired and got a plant ecology degree. I studied dinosaurs now. Here's my favorite dinosaur now I'm working on. Her name is Suwasei. That means ancient or early thunder in the Crow Nation language. This tail is right on the border of Wyoming and Montana to the east of Yellowstone National Park. I moved all the dirt off this tail. It's don't think of paleontology as very sexy. We operate with picks and shovels. When they get close to the bones, we let the professors get in there. So anyway, enough about me. I'm a wildlife photographer also. So here's a few of my images. I seem to be interested in birds in flight these days. The ones on the right are all northern mockingbirds, and the ones on the left are several different ravens and western gulls. The three things that we want to talk about are just sort of the importance of the Inflation Reduction Act and how much of a game changer it's going to be and has already been. And I'm going to do a little bit of a summary because we're already 1 year into the Inflation Reduction Act. It was signed in August of 2022. $370 billion was the estimate by the Congressional Budget Office. I can assure you that the actual spending after we get through counting up all of the corporate capital investment is about $4 trillion, folks. So this will change the nature of the electricity generation, the way we travel, all of our carbon emissions. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about this. When we pair the Inflation Reduction Act with this other bill, which is much larger, $1.2 trillion, the bipartisan infrastructure law, it allows us to really make a significant down payment on transitioning to this, what we're calling a renewable energy future. So why are they so important? I just want to share with everyone the value of the IRA is that it's going to promote environmental justice, create jobs, and really put us on a path to achieving our emissions goals, as well as it has the capability to do some things like achieve really significant reductions in some carbon emissions. So I'm going to be talking about some of these emissions and some of these programs and ways that this IRA is impact us all. The amount of emissions that we're looking at lowering, we think that we might actually be able to get to something like 40% below 2000 levels of 2005 in just 7 years. So this is an ambitious policy. Let me show everybody where we are now. Used to be emitting in 2004 about almost 7 gigatons of carbon into the atmosphere every year. This is annual metric tons. And with the Paris Accords, we're trying to get to about 3.2 gigatons. That's where we need to get to. Under current policy, this is our projections as before the Inflation Reduction Act. But I wanted to share with everybody, even with the Inflation Reduction Act paired with the bipartisan infrastructure law, our emissions reductions are only going to go down to about 3.8 gigatons. So we need to get to 3.2. So even with the IRA, we're still not going to get our Paris Accord. Here's the Paris targets at 2030. So I just want to make sure everybody understands. It puts us on the pathway, but it doesn't actually get us to the goal line yet. Where do these reductions come from? They're going to be generating electricity in a much cleaner fashion. So 36% are the emissions reductions related to the generation of electricity. Clean vehicles, 28%. Cleaning up industrial efficiency, carbon capture and sequestration, 13%. Changing our forestry and agriculture practice can reap us 9% emissions reductions. If we just clean up our buildings and electrify everything in our buildings, we'll do a significant 6% reduction in carbon emissions. And cleaning up fugitive methane emissions from oil and gas exploration activities is a big goal of the Inflation Reduction Act. Some of the savings that we could see up to a couple of $1,000s a year for all these families, 9 million jobs, 4% reduction in annual national, and 4%, it doesn't sound like $50 billion, it doesn't sound like much, but that's $50 billion that we don't have to borrow from people who don't really align with the United States and North American interests. So I just will share with everybody, this is an important piece of legislation. It's going to result, as I said, after we get through counting up the corporate capital investment, if the corporations see the government committing 10 years of supercharging the electrical grid and the renewable energy systems, the corporations will be allocating significant dollars. They're already allocating significant dollars in solar and wind, carbon capture, transportation, storage. Hydrogen is playing a big game. I'll just say there's 3 types of hydrogen. I'll say them. One is gray hydrogen. That's extracting hydrogen from natural gas and releasing the emissions into the air. Blue hydrogen is extracting the hydrogen from natural gas and re-injecting the CO2 into the ground. It's already sequestered, folks, as natural gas. We extract it, strip the hydrogen out, and re-sequester it. That doesn't make any sense. Green hydrogen is splitting water using the process of electrolysis, using renewable wind power and solar energy. So green hydrogen is fine. Blue hydrogen is a waste of time, and gray hydrogen is a joke. So consumer technologies, these are all things that the IRA will be supercharging corporate investments in, and I just wanted to mention that. There's also significant dollars allocated to those communities that have been relied on fossil fuels with bonus credits, assistance for rural electric cooperatives, and energy community tax incentives. So it contains the largest investment in the public transit and the electrical grid. This thing called the bipartisan infrastructure law is so important. With $1.2 trillion, that's a lot of money. Let me just show you. These are numbers that I just don't ever recall me ever saying. 91 billion for transportation, 75 billion for clean energy, 66 for passenger rail. These are all the bipartisan infrastructure, the 1.2. I'm sorry, I went too fast. Let me say this. Part of this funding is previously allocated, but it was not allocated to specific projects. All of this money now for roads, public transportation, power grids, water, electric vehicles, environmental remediation is now been allocated $550 billion. And of that, a lot of this stuff is related to the climate, folks. So the bipartisan infrastructure law is equally as important as the IRA because it has so much impact on rail, power, public transportation, and electric vehicles. So I'll just leave it there and say, what we want to now do is sort of transition our comments to some of the benefits that are available. And I'll start with homeowners and renters first, and then I'll move to businesses. I should mention, and David is aware, that I'm part of this leadership team on the climate business working group for the national, it's actually international, 500 climate leaders focused on business and small businesses. So this idea of how the IRA impacts businesses is central to some of the work that I'm doing internationally and nationally in North America. The IRA has home energy tax credits for homeowners to do some upgrades and in energy improvements for their homes. These tax credits are available for a portion of the qualifying expenses. You get a 30% tax credit, and there is no maximum lifetime. So you can put as much insulation as you need. You don't have to worry about maxing out at 1,200 and starting over next year. There's again, so in 2033, when the IRA starts to taper off, that's 10, 11 years from now, you'll see these incentives and credits taper off. You see it's 30% in 22 to 32, and then in 2033 it'll taper up to 26%, 22%. It'll drop down. So you need to take care of this within 10 years. 2034 is again it drops off as well. The clean vehicle credits are available for those individuals who are in the market for a new vehicle. Electric vehicles or fuel cell vehicles may qualify you and your business for a tax credit and also incentives between minimum credit of $3,751, but up to $7,500. There's something called the residential clean energy credit that's a benefit for homeowners. If you want to put solar, wind, geothermal, fuel cells, or battery storage technology, a Tesla Powerwall, and drop this into your electric vehicle, you can qualify for up to 30% off on this. Now, let me just say, those individuals who don't have a tax liability are not eligible for this credit. You have to have some payable taxes to be able to write it off as a credit. It's non-refundable is what I'm saying. Energy efficient home improvement credits are also available under the IRA. They're all for the exterior doors, windows, skylights, insulation, central air, heaters, furnaces, boilers, heat pumps, stoves, home appliances. The amount of the credit you take is 30% up to a lifetime maximum of $500 for some of these windows and doors. They're capped $1,200, but they reset each year. So if you want to do 3 doors this year and then 2 windows, 5 windows next year, you've got 10 years to do all this. So you can upgrade your home in really significant fashion. those credits that I mentioned are available to homeowners, but they also flow through to renters. And a lot of these appliances that are available, you can take those when you buy them through the IRA. Those are yours to keep. They're not buying those for your landlord. You're buying those for your own purchase. And if you got 50% off or 100% off, that's something you can take these stoves and appliances with you, the water heaters and stuff. So here's a map that shows. So we're going to transition now. The Inflation Reduction Act has significant business benefits, and what I'm showing you here on the right is a chart of a map of the United States with every opportunity zone that is marked on it. An opportunity zone are those it's an economic development tool that supports investment in the growth of distressed areas. So what this Inflation Reduction Act, it provides incentives for people to go into these opportunity zones and invest in clean electrical generation, clean operations, and then use some of these investments to defer taxes on their eligible gains. So if they're a business person and they want to protect some of their profits from excessive taxes, they can actually invest in these opportunity zones and defer the tax and take advantage of that. It's a significant incentive for business. It's a big boon to these distressed areas as well. So this is a big part of this. One of the things that I'll just say is a lot of the businesses operate in fleets. A lot of the work that I did in my end of my career as a insurance risk manager, it had to do with insurance companies and large fleets. And I can say that a lot of these corporations own these vehicles or lease these vehicles, and they're eligible now for clean vehicle tax credits of $40,000. You say, well, Andrew, what does that mean? What that means is that I can take all of the tractors that take all of the containers from the Port of Los Angeles up from Long Beach to the Inland Empire to those warehouses in that corridor that's just dumping particulate matter and creating asthma for all the children in that area, and swap them out for electric tractors. And they'll pay up to $40,000 for these tractors. So it's like a half off coupon. These tractors about $125,000. So it's a significant savings. Businesses are they've already jumped on this, and I'll just mention it to you now. There's also advanced energy project credits for businesses. If they want to start a project, let's say I want to manufacture solar panels. What I can do is I can take advantage of this IRA money and have this qualify as an advanced energy project. And then it's available for a tax credit through the Department of Energy. And the tax credit equals 30% of the investment cost. So if I'm going to spend, let's say, $500 million to build this factory, to build solar panels, they're going to pay $250 million, and the IRA is not capped. So the more we use it, the more is allocated for it. Now, let me talk to you about the difference between this 30% and 6%. If that solar factory agrees to meet prevailing wages and has an apprenticeship and meets apprenticeship requirements, they're eligible for the 30% tax credit. For those projects that don't meet prevailing wage or apprenticeship requirements, it's only 6%. So this is, again, an incentive by the government to promote prevailing wage and union solidarity. There's also advanced energy project credits, and these projects can include, let's say, solar panels, but also in recycling as well. So anything to do with greenhouse gas emission reductions projects, the search and the extraction of critical materials like lithium to make batteries. So all of these qualifying projects are are eligible for this tax credit of 30%. Again, for prevailing wage, and apprenticeship is only 6% for those who don't. So again, the benefits for businesses are significant. There's new energy credits for builders who want to put together homes that are energy efficient. And I'll just say with you, they can get up to $5,000 per home if they want to put eligible contractors who build substantially or substantially reconstruct qualified homes to be new energy efficient homes may be able to claim these tax credits. And the amount depends on the type of the home and the energy efficiency and the date. But I just want to point out to you that a lot of businesses will be moving into this idea of people who are unhoused and people who need shelter. And this IRA money, this is going to be a perfect solution to our crisis of the unhoused, and using some of this IRA money to find homes for these people. So the other thing for businesses, there's something called commercial building. So if we're going to put a building together and we agree that it's what's called an EECPP or retrofit property, this is efficient commercial buildings, we may be eligible for these tax credits. There are a deduction there for increased energy savings. They again have to meet the prevailing wage and things like that. That'll kind of give you an idea of how to access. We'll talk about a little bit more about accessing for your own home ownership, what to do and how to make a plan. But I want to just give everybody just a real quick, brief annual report. We've been into the IRA for 1 month here. 1 year. And I just wanted to say, we now have some data. It's a little bit too early to say, has this moved the economy? But I want to show you some charts here. The private sector has announced $110 billion just in the first year of new clean energy manufacturing, $70 billion for electric vehicles. These are a very large corporate commitments, $10 billion for solar manufacturing. And the government has awarded grants to communities to help them become more resilient. The IRA is investing clean technology in disadvantaged communities. Let me just say this: place-based bonuses for locating certain clean energy projects in low income or low unemployment areas is very critical to the success of the IRA. New investments offer an early clue as to where the corporations are putting their money. 250 projects in this area, this space of clean technology in disadvantaged communities, are already reflecting $500 billion in announced investments by corporations. And of that 250, 150, so about 60% of those projects are in IRA-related sectors of clean energy, electric vehicles, and batteries. So let me just show you a chart of the amount of jobs in 1 year that the IRA is responsible for. And I'll say the number: 170,604,000 jobs are directly tied to the IRA that we can know about. And the stripes indicate California is participating in almost all of the sectors of solar, wind, electrical vehicles, clean tech, hydrogen, and batteries. Some of these states aren't participating very much, but there are some states like Texas, you wouldn't think, but they are participating in battery, hydrogen, solar, and wind in a big way. So I just wanted to point that out. Let me give you some ideas. How would you measure if the IRA had moved the economy? One of the ways we do this is we look at business fixed investments. How much money after the peak of the last high point before the recession, and number of quarters, these are quarters here, so this is 4 months. What was the average recession recovery for business fixed investments? After recessions, businesses do not spend a lot of money because they're nervous and worried. But right now, I'll say with average recovery is the black line. The Great Recession of 2008 shows the business fixed investment here was quite substantially lower. But with the COVID recession here, the IRA, it looks like the IRA has moved us well almost into positive spending for business fixed investment. Another important measure is private research and development investment by businesses. So again, the charts are quarters after the last high business cycle. And you can see here the Great Recession here. Businesses don't put much money to research and development after a recession. But with this Inflation Reduction Act here, we're really seeing quite a significant increase from the average recession recovery for private research and development. So that's pretty good evidence. I can't say for sure that the IRA is causing that economic impact, but it looks pretty pretty suspicious to me. The EPA has awarded already $30 million to this community air monitoring. So this is very important to communities to monitor some of this particulate matter. It's designed and launched clean energy financing networks. They've set up this greenhouse gas reduction fund that's already distributed $27 billion. And it's opened up all of these Solar for All, National Clean Investment Fund. All of these funds are up and running to loan money to disadvantaged communities. The Climate Pollution Reduction Grant, $250 million. These are large numbers, folks. This will be followed by a $4.6 billion grant. Annual report for the environmental justice programs alone, EPA is allocating money, $200 billion in grants to disadvantaged communities for extreme heat mitigation, climate resilience, zero emission technology, and workforce development. They're launching things like the Thriving Community Technical Assistance. So some communities don't know how to do this, so we're providing technical assistance, including a lot of money to train these people to do this. The United States Department of Agriculture is the other department that I'm focusing on. Is the single largest investment in rural electrification, $11 billion. With over 20,000 distressed loan borrowers already borrowed money, $1.5 billion already just in the first year of the IRA. So they've launched a number of new programs to provide financial assistance. It's the annual report for the Department of Agriculture is providing a lot of this money, and I'll just mention the Regional Conservation Partnership Program that's very important to Los Angeles. That really is all I want to say about the benefits to businesses and to homeowners and renters. The next question we would want to know is, how do I get started? And as a homeowner, you might have some questions. Is the IRA, does it have anything for me? I plugged in my numbers. I went to this thing called rewiringamerica.org, and I plugged in my numbers. So the first thing we should do, everyone think about, is to make a plan. And the reason why we want to make a plan is because if it's February and I'm in Ann Arbor and my furnace goes out, if my panel's not ready to upgrade, I'll probably swap it out with a natural gas furnace again, because that's the only thing that they can swap out in a day or two. And it's cold and I need the heat. But if I'm ready to go by upgrading and I've made a plan and I already know that I'm waiting for my furnace to go out to swap it out with a heat pump, we can make these transitions. And the government will pay you $150 to do a home energy audit. Once you do the audit, you'll find out everything that you need to do to upgrade your home to be ready to do this. I went to rewiringamerica.org and plugged in my numbers, and I'm waiting in 2023. Andrew has $23,000 of incentives for me waiting. I've got a electrical car I can get. I've got a heat pump, and I've got all my appliances. And I'll tell you how to do this. What we do is we use their savings calculator at Rewiring America to plug in our numbers and determine our income bracket. Let me just say they're using something called the area median income. It's called the AMI. And let's just say for Ann Arbor, it's 90,000. If you're 80% or below, you're low income and you're eligible for 100% off, right off the point of sale coupon, 100% coupon. The government will put electrical appliances, solar energy in your home for free. If you're 80% to 150% of the area median income, you're eligible for a 50% off coupon. And for high income earners above 150% of the area median income, everyone's eligible for this 30% tax credit. So what we can do here is go to that Rewiring America, plug in your numbers and find out what you're eligible for. You'll find out that you probably need to upgrade your panel. It's not always certain that this is for sure, but a lot of panels are older and are need to be upgraded. Start the process early, because these take a while. It takes a couple of weeks to locate a electrician to put this in. A fully mounted is capped. You can get 30% off. They'll almost pay you to put one of these in. Soon, yes, sir.
Would it be all right if we took a break for some questions? Because
yes, we can. I'm happy to.
That'd be great. Aaron, you had a question. Do you want to go first? Just come on off mute and.
Sure. Hey, Andrew. My name's Aaron Coots. I'm the director of the Los Angeles Regional Collaborative for Climate Action and Sustainability. We're based at UCLA. So I dropped in the chat my question. You mentioned talking about renters when you started talking about home energy tax credits. Are there
Yes.
any specific tax credits that are for landlords or for perhaps grant programs to help cities incentivize the adoption of those tax credits by landlords? Ways to fix that split incentive issue.
Yes, all of the credits that I'm talking about, the home energy credits for businesses, are available for landlords, and it's easier for us to talk to landlords. Frequently, we are talking to renters that may not be in alignment with the landlord's interests. So, but definitely for landlords, the IRA has incentive programs. There's also programs with technical assistance programs through the EPA to help cities incentivize their communities to make these transitions. So the answer to your question is yes and yes.
Okay.
The landlords are IRA money is available for all of their work, and there is training and technical assistance being contemplated as we speak. Some of this is so new that the IRS hasn't figured out how this is going to actually hit the road, but I can say that these technical assistance programs are getting ramped up pretty soon right now. So
what's the right way to stay plugged in and to hear about when those are out so that we can circulate that amongst our cities?
I usually stay pretty close to the IRS because the IRS has a lot of the moving parts for the tax credits, and the incentives are tax based. So, you first hear about it from the IRS. So I usually go to the IRS IRA site, and they just recently updated in August, the end of August, some brand new stuff. So they're releasing these again, and these technical assistance programs. The other thing I would say is the Department of Energy is very useful, and the Environmental Protection Agency as well. I created a PDF that I'm going to share with David of the research that I used to create these slides. I'll share with David, and he can share it with the group, and you can just go to these sites. It's all hyperlinked. You can just go to them and read everything. You can read everything that I read.
I don't know if we could understand it as well as you did.
It's in
so
English,
facile
David.
with all the information. It's pretty amazing just how much seems to flow in terms of all the things you know. But I want to open it up to other people if they have questions too. I'm assuming some of you do. I know you well, and so I know you've always got questions, especially with stuff like this. Well, Erin, I saw you had another question in the chat. Did you get a chance to ask that one? Well,
No, I just saw Kelly come off mute, so I'm gonna let her go first before I take a second.
Yeah, I was curious about how nonprofits have been using this, and also you went very quickly over the apprenticeship option, and I was curious if you could elaborate a bit more on that.
The IRA is structured to direct funds to disadvantaged communities, and they want the funds to be allocated to corporations who are willing to pay prevailing wage, union wages. And then the other thing that they're very mindful of is if we are to make this renewable transition, we're going to need workers. We're going to need a lot of electricians. And it takes so long, it takes 7 years to create a really super electrician. And so these apprenticeships programs are so very, very valuable. And a lot of the work that everybody is focused on about these incentives and tax credits can't even begin to move forward until we train electricians. So everybody knows that this apprenticeship program is a crucial component of the working components of the IRA. So with the prevailing wage, they're trying to focus the distribution of funding to historically marginalized and disadvantaged communities, and support a workforce development at the same time, essentially attacking two problems with the same requirement of prevailing wage and apprenticeship program. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, about the apprenticeship part. Is it only available for-profit organizations?
Yeah, as far as I know, and I'm not an electrician. I don't know much about this. So there is the apprenticeship program is a way to make sure that you're touching all the bases and getting the right training to become an electrician. And so there really isn't any other way that you can become an electrician without going through this apprenticeship. So they want to foster that and bolster it and support it by having this 30% and 6% incentive. That's a fairly sizable bump if you're willing to install. And there's very prescribed the chapter on apprenticeship programs, which is embedded in this document that I'm going to share with David, has all of this information in it, so you can read that at your leisure if you're curious about it. I did not read it, and I'm not an expert in this, so I probably shouldn't say much more than that.
Megan may know the answer to that. Megan, there's no reason that apprenticeships for electricians couldn't be at a nonprofit because of what you do and what Grid Alternatives does. I would think there's no limitation, correct? Or
As far as I know, at least there shouldn't be a limitation as long as you're doing work within the sector.
yeah. And Andrew, you don't have any sense of how many electricians are projected to need to be trained over the next 7 years, do you?
I know that it's dire. I know that the big hangup, everyone is very worried about the fact that we don't have enough. We know this, we know we don't have nearly enough, and that component, the 9 million jobs part of the IRA, was bolted onto the IRA to address this very subject. And when senators, when they passed this, this was one of the major elements of the IRA. I will say that. Many of you know that the Climate Reality Project had an April Power Up training, and we went through this thing with we learned about how the process of Senator Schumer and Senator Manchin got together for 18 months before they actually signed the IRA, and we're working on this in secret. So it was a big part of the IRA, and I know that to be successful, we're going to need a lot more electricians, and not just electricians. I'm talking about water quality specialists, agricultural entomologists. I mean, there's so much workforce development work to be done. A lot of this, we actually have a workforce development interest at the Los Angeles chapter. So we've got people who are working on this, and I'm plugged into the Los Angeles Community College District, and I talk to a lot of professors, and they're concerned about how to get students into these programs. So everybody's moving towards this. They know they need to work on it, but it's a big effort, and we're not training in nearly enough.
I want to pile on. When we were working through the LA 100 with DWP and NREL, the National Renewable Lab, Renewable Energy Lab, we talked about this a lot over the last 5 to 8 years, however long it's been. And the Department of Water and Power is losing a lot of workers to retirement and not replacing them. So I feel like there's a bigger conversation that could be had by the LA community around maybe making electricians and etc., pipe fitters, everything that Andrew mentioned, sexy in Hollywood somehow. I feel like we need to have a big messaging effort that we all work together on, because there are not enough people to get us where we need to go, and it's a real gigantic problem.
Maybe we can get Taylor Swift to date an electrician next. That might, stir up some interest.
I bet we can find some electricians who will volunteer.
Who else had a question that was more serious than the one I about it.
I have a question. I'm wondering if you know, are there like consultants? I maybe you're a consultant, but like, are there people that like say I'm on the city council in Pomona? Like, could we hire somebody who could help us, you know, as a city, develop a plan to draw down these dollars in a coordinated way? And or like could for like a nonprofit or a business that wanted to figure out how they can take advantage of this kind of money, like, and where are they and who are they? Are any of them good? Are they vultures? You know, like, is it worth thinking about something like that?
Yes, there are people like that, and they are not vultures. They have their heart and mind in the right place, and I think that you would find them valuable. I do have, I'm aware of people who are providing these services, and I'm not one of them. I'm retired, but I can say that my friend Victoria Charles, and she's a professor at Santa Monica College, but Victoria could help you. And a lot of people are interested in this city space, helping cities access some of these dollars and how to do it. So let me, if you could drop your email in the chat or somehow get your, let me put my email in the chat, and you can send me an email.
Okay.
I'm gonna pile on with this one too. Victoria Charles is awesome, and that's who I was gonna chime in and recommend. So I totally agree.
Great. Okay. Cool. I will try to hire her.
Erin, any thoughts on?
Yeah, I'm going to share
John's
one more
question?
free resource in the chat. It's a platform developed by some folks at the Milken Institute, and I don't have projects myself. So I have gotten access to the back end of this tool where they are attempting to do some matching with cities and folks who have potential projects that are eligible for this types of funding. And so you can input a project and say, I have this road improvement project, but I know that I also want to do some like bus shelters, and I have like all of these types of things that might slot into a climate project, basically. And they will try to do some matchmaking on the back end. They have an enormous database of the like where there's money available. And they will try to do that matchmaking. So if you have ideas of projects that you know you want to fund, then that might be a place to start. I would love to hear from somebody who tries it. That's not the folks that are creating the tool, because they've been like trying to pitch it to say like, hey, Erin, you should be sharing this with your cities. And I like haven't gotten to really test drive it because I don't have, I guess I could just make up a project. But I'd love to hear from somebody who tried it.
Yeah, we're in the midst. They did a wonderful webinar like 2 weeks ago with some really great information, and trying to get the Pomona project that John and Megan and I are involved in to submit an application for that. So
cool.
I can let you know how it goes.
Let me know. Just dropped it in the chat, the community infrastructure center.org. And I'll drop my email in the chat too. I'm glad to connect you with other folks that I know. I think Victoria is great. And then there's also sort of for specific grant like applications. I know Rincon and Associates, some folks at Arup have been doing grant like ghostwriting applications for cities to apply for specific sets of funding.
Very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Other questions for Andrew?
The name of Victoria's organization is Blue Spheres Partner, and I put the link in the chat.
Thank you. No further questions at this moment? Okay. Well, Andrew, you've shared a ton of information already. What speaks to you to share with our remaining time?
I think as from a perspective standpoint, when I started speaking about this 10 years ago, we didn't really have we had the planetary update from Mr. Gore and his science team. We just didn't have the solutions component. And since now we have the IRA in just a very brief amount of time and the election of the Biden administration, it's been just a sea change. I think first I'll mention a young woman who came on the scene, Greta Thunberg, and sort of re-energized the space. And then we've now been given this new direction to reallocate these dollars and get this out into the community and begin the journey that all of us need to make to a much more sustainable way of living. And now when I speak about this, it's such an optimistic message because I have the last part of the story. I've got the planetary, I know what's going on in the Arctic and the Antarctic, but I've got the solutions now, which was the tremendous amount of $4.1 trillion of spending is already changed the way we generate electricity. And it's going to completely jumpstart our transition. And this, I'm so optimistic. The more I talk about it, the more excited I get. And I like to leave people with this message because everybody is suffering from climate anxiety and doom and gloom. But I'm not that way. I think that this is, first of all, very technologically achievable. And I'm aware of projects going on the planet, big bladders in the ocean, that we're going to use renewable energy to use the pressure of the sea to generate free electricity and trickle water through turbines. And we're just going to be in a new world of almost free electricity. And I'll just remind everybody, we get enough sunshine every hour to power our entire planetary needs for a whole year. There's enough wind in the belts on the planet to power our entire energy needs for 40 times over. So we've got enough renewable energy on the planet. And once we make this transition, I think it'll be a lot more clear sailing. So I'd like to leave everybody with my sort of hopeful message rather than one of anxiety or uncertainty. I see certainty with this IRA, and more people are collaborating together. As you witnessed, Dave, Sunday night, we had a big chapter meeting and more people are joining us. I will, before I leave, just share my screen one last time to let you know the ways that you can join our chapter with everybody. It's laclimatereality.org. And if you want to follow some of my photography at andrewcellis.com, you can. Thank you again so much, Dave, for these opportunities to speak. I'm always available. I'll put my contact information in the chat for everybody. You can always write to me. The address is andrew.ellis@climatebusiness.biz, B-I-Z. And I'll drop my contact information in the chat, and I'll offer my sincere thanks to Dave for these opportunities.
Oh yeah, and thanks to Joe Hood, who couldn't be here tonight, but is the one who introduced us. Joe's been a volunteer for our chapter for quite a while. So I do have another question. I noticed in the meeting on Sunday night that there's a lot of bills. You're very involved in the legislative for California, and it seems like there's a lot of California bills going through as well. Is there one or two that you're most excited about?
Yeah, SB 253, Senator Wiener's Corporate Climate Accountability Act. So asking billion-dollar corporations to track carbon emissions is going to be a really significant, important piece of legislation, and Governor Newsom has already indicated his willingness to sign it. So it's the corporate accountability and carbon emissions, corporate accountability, tracking carbon emissions for large corporations. And if the large corporations do it, they're going to ask the little corporations. So everybody's going to be tracking carbon. And this is one thing that we really need to do, because this is the first step on the journey of sustainability, is to understand what your carbon footprint is. You can't fix it if you don't know what it is. So this piece of legislation that I will say, I'm also in the district of Assemblymember Wendy Carrillo, and Assemblymember Carrillo's bill on the requiring bonds for oil and gas operators to before they open up a well, to post a bond so that they can actually shut the well down and pay for it before they leave town, is another piece of legislation. There's I'll just say the team of people, we came up with a priority legislation list, and I'll put the link to the chapter in the chat for everybody to, if you want to go to this, you can go to the action page, to go to this laclimatereality.org, and you can just copy the letter to Gavin Newsom with our priority bills and saying, I'm a resident of California and I want to support these water and climate bills. Thank you so much. It takes 14 seconds. That's how I timed it. It took me 14 seconds to do this. So go to LA Climate Reality and everybody write to Gavin Newsom and let him know how you feel about it. And you don't have to support these bills. You can oppose them if you want to, but let him know how you feel. And I'm a big fan of everybody voicing their political voice now. It's extremely important. And I can't begin to tell everybody how important that protecting democracy will be in the next 18 months.
Andrew, I'm going to push back on that. It took me 16 seconds, so I'm going to challenge you 14 seconds on it. But thank you for making it all so easy, and it's amazing team of people that you've got. They're all working on legislative bills up and down the state through the different chapters. I would love, since we've got a few minutes, maybe if couple people would promote the work that they're doing to try and reduce climate. So maybe Megan and Aaron, you'd be willing to share just briefly about what both of you are doing? Megan, do you want to go?
Sure, I can go first. So I work for a lot of different nonprofits, but one, we'll put a link in the chat too, is called Chirp Solar Works. It's a nonprofit solar manufacturing organization located in Pomona. The only nonprofit solar manufacturing company I think that exists in the US. We are in the final stages of certifying our module, but it's not only nonprofit manufacturing, it's also manufacturing a new and advanced solar module that's a lot safer than the other modules on the market, and has a lot of other features and benefits. But our goal is to extend renewable energy to disadvantaged and neglected communities, and also provide workforce development. Everything like that the IRA wants. Sometimes we feel like it was written for us in mind, even though they probably don't know we exist. But if you're interested, you can check out our website.
Now they know.
Yeah, now they know.
Aaron, would you be comfortable sharing a little too, or?
Sure. So we run regular meetings. I'm going to share my screen actually for a second if I can.
I don't know if you can. I got to turn it on.
No, that's all right. I'll drop in the chat. I was going to show you guys our newsletter that just went out recently. It has information about the upcoming member meeting. We, on October 12th, will be meeting at 10 a.m. CARB has asked for feedback from local cities about the progress they've made and the barriers that remain to implementing 3 types of climate action policies, specifically building decarb, reducing VMT, vehicle miles traveled, and zero emission vehicle readiness. So I think we're likely going to be talking about building decarb at that meeting, but I encourage you to check out the newsletters, join us if you're interested. And then we've been running an extreme heat campaign. So there's information there about all of the materials that we have. If you have any public events, you're welcome to share our flyers at your events. There's a whole suite of materials for social media. This fall we'll likely be updating and sort of refreshing it for next summer. Then there's also information about legislation in there, and policy engagement opportunities, some new research, and a whole set of grant opportunities that we've been sharing out with folks.
And a
So
lot
feel
of
free to stay in touch.
city staff are coming to those events too, from the ones that I've been to. So, yeah.
That's our main network is city staff and folks who are also writing climate action plans and adaptation plans for cities.
Yeah.
You can-
Andy, good to see you.
Yeah.
You want to share a little bit, Andy?
Hello, how's it going?
Well,
Good to see everybody here, and it's great to see hear all the work that's been going on. I know Devin's been doing a great job out there with Chirp. So Megan, I'm glad to see you here, and of course Aaron's been doing great work for years. So I've been working with I'm working on implementing a lot of the different legislative policies that we push through. I worked for one of the LA City Council members for the last 10 years, and I've been working on implementing them. One of them is regenerative soil effort. You know, I think we all know that healthy soil really draws down climate emissions, and so I'm working with some farmers and ranchers and a group called Zero Foodprint, which is funding them to put compost on working rangelands. And what Zero Foodprint does, they have sort of an innovative model where they have an opt-out program for restaurants and food providers and waste haulers to donate 1% of the bill, so like your restaurant bill, to regenerative soil work. And you can get up there and you can say, no, I don't want to pay that. But mostly most people say yes. There's a Subway in Boulder, Colorado that's been raising funds hand over fist, and it's going really well, and helping us really spread compost, and that's spreading across the country. And then I'm also working with a little grocery store. To all the grocery stores have to swap out their refrigerant, their high carbon refrigerant use, and by 2030. And so we're working to figure out a model on how to do that cheaply and innovatively, so we can spread it around, create a model, and then scale it up. So those are the things I'm working on.
awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. I love ending on time. I don't know why I have a fetish about that, but I do. It's a weird fetish to have, but it's mine. So just want to thank everyone for coming, especially Andrew. Amazing the amount of information and all the time and effort you've put in to doing all this over the years. And just a reminder that we're having an introduction to well-being economics. Rex will be leading that on October 17th. And then November 15th, Megan, John, and I and others in Pomona will be doing a intro to well-being in person in Pomona, California, with different community members from Pomona, Claremont, Laverne, and nearby places. So if anyone lives nearby to that and wants to join us in person, we welcome you. And again, just Andrew, so appreciative of your knowledge and your generosity of spirit and sharing it. Thank you, everyone.
But my pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for these invitations.